Hello, hello. This is Jennifer Kenny Smith. I'm the Civilian Area Sales Manager at GitLab, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast on all things digital transformation with our awesome friends at ATARC. And this morning, I have the privilege to meet with and speak to Courtney Winship, who is the Deputy Chief Data Officer at the USCIS. Good morning, Courtney. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm super. Thank you for spending some time with us. I'm really excited to have you on today. We haven't had anyone from DHS on, so you're my first Homeland guest. Welcome, and really excited about the work that you're doing. Lots of things are happening within immigration today. Everybody's hearing about it, and to learn from and hear from someone that actually has a lot of passion around it and is making changes within technology of how to provide data and make data-based decisions in regards to social impact. I'm just excited to meet you and have some time together. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's if you don't mind, take me on a little journey about your backgrounds. What have you been doing? What brought you into this role? And what is this role doing? What are you doing with this role today?
Sure. So I tell people I'm an immigration nerd by training. So I spent, starting in high school, I studied immigration and integration issues, race and ethnic studies in undergrad. And I really just became very, very passionate about immigration and integration issues in the United States. And from there, I thought, maybe I'll go into law, maybe I'll go into education, and spent time both at nonprofits as well as working in education, K through 12 and international education. And realized I was never going to be a good teacher or administrator in that light. But I learned that I loved working in startup organizations and kind of rolling my sleeves up, believing in a mission, kind of in the social impact of an organization, and helping that organization grow and kind of become established. So government wasn't really on my mind at the time, but through happenstance and living abroad, I came across U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services and got a job here in 2007 and have been at USCIS ever since, starting as an adjudicator and looking at cases, and then really becoming engaged in our transformation efforts, but with a public engagement lens and customer service lens. And so that's kind of where I've gone with my career, is spending a lot of time trying to bring the voice of the customer, voice of the user, into the voice of the public into USCIS and everything that we do, whether it's policies, procedures, or technology. And that's kind of how I've approached my career and found those opportunities and teams that were really looking to grow. And around 2015 came to my USCIS, which was just beginning to grow and become established as a suite of tools that were helping the users and the public navigate their immigration experience. So what could we do to help make immigration easier to understand? We weren't changing laws, we can't change the laws, but at least we can help people and make it a little more plain language and efficient in terms of how you're interacting with USCIS. So that's kind of how I came to be involved in the various technology efforts at USCIS, and really trying to be an advocate for the public, for our applicants, ultimately knowing the better information we get from those that are applying to us, the better decisions we can make, the better data we will have, and then kind of which led me now into this Deputy Chief Data Officer role, and kind of wanting to invest time in making our data good, making it available to both our employees as well as the public, and helping people understand it and use it to make decisions.
Awesome. So my USCIS is the digital portal.
Mm-hmm.
Things digitized. I'm guessing you guys had a transition from moving paper to data. and then serving that up for the consumer, the immigrants that are wanting to go through the process. Can you share a little bit about that journey?
That's right. Yeah, sure. Well, and it's an ongoing journey for sure. So my USCIS started, as I said, as a suite of tools, helping people explore their options. So what types of benefits they may be eligible for. Also helped folks study for the civics test in preparation for their naturalization, and several other tools to really help people begin to navigate, as we say, that immigration experience. And that we really took our time to understand what applicants and the public need to have those types of interactions with us, right? And so what is it that how do you present information in a way that's easy to understand and gives them everything they need up front? So that was kind of early on some of our journey. And then we had the opportunity to take on the filing of the naturalization form was one of the first ones we did, and because we had these suite of tools. And the M400 has been available since 2017 or so. And since then, we've really grown the online filing experience so that it's consistent, plain language, easy to use, in an online account, so secure. And you're also able to access other more personalized services, whether it's to inquire about your case, to understand milestones about your case, but just a little bit more granular than you can get on the website or maybe from an initial contact center inquiry. And now there's more forms on there. Unfortunately, USCIS has something like 100 forms. So we're continuing to, it is not a done deal quite yet because of some of the complexities of each of the filings.
Awesome. So you all are taking kind of the Uber experience for the folks that during the application process or their naturalization form. So they can log in and see at any time where the form is, their application is. And is there an idea of like timing of how that happens? They know.
That's exactly right. And that they'll hit certain milestones. And again, it varies by the type of filing you have, but it'll tell you when to expect a biometrics appointment, for example. They'll tell you where your case is going to be for an interview and how long on average it will take for you to hit that next milestone. So there's a bit more information just to help, hopefully relieve some anxiety, give some transparency, and build some trust with our applicants, right? Because immigration, we were talking taxes earlier. Immigration it's not a one and done for many folks, but it can be a decades long experience with USCIS in some way for people.
Interesting. Wow. So I'm guessing that there was a quiet period for CIS during pandemic, right? Not so much happening with immigration. We heard similar with passports and visas. That was kind of pretty quiet for a little while. And now things are up and running and big influx and change. How do you manage when there's a quiet period and then there's this a larger amount of demand? Like, what is your team and how do you lead a team that has this ebbing and flowing and not knowing that there's going to be a big demand coming up?
Yeah, well, in ours, we certainly have ebbs and flows, but, we were open the entire time during pandemic. So really, I think, our filings stayed pretty consistent other than an initial kind of reaction as much of the, country and world did in the spring of 2020. But since then, it's been pretty stable. I mean, and what we have seen is kind of the drive for some innovation and newer solutions. So for example, we can stick with the N400s with these naturalizations. They require an interview. So folks typically go into an office to have those interviews. We've now set up, we call them office to office virtual interviews. So people are in separate rooms, they're meeting, as we're chatting right now via camera. They are still required to come into an office, but there is not that same direct interaction with an officer and an applicant. But I think we've continued and we're continuing to look at those types of interviews and how we can continue to deliver high levels of service, what through a pandemic or any other time. And I think that has served as well as we've dealt with other, Afghan processing and other things. We've been able to, I think, react very quickly to making changes with some of our technology as we go, because the needs do fluctuate and change based on, whether it's a public health issue or other changes. We need to react quickly no matter what.
Yes, you guys are doing it very well, as we can see. Great example, and thanks for sharing that. So tell me, what are some of the challenges that your team sees internally? What, especially with, I know we talked about changing a leadership could be one, changing of policies, knowing that you have a purpose and a mission and you're super passionate about having the data secure, available to ease that immigration process. What are some of the challenges you see internally, and how are you handling them and dealing with them?
Well, I think there are a couple of challenges that we've seen over the years. One is just priorities. I think it's kind of there's a constant battle. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, right? And so I think that was definitely a challenge we were seeing over the last 5 to 10 years. I think we're seeing a good shift in the agency coming together to really set some clear goals and strategies and priorities, and also when you're looking at the technology, we're looking across domains. So for us, it's things like case management or intake or payment. These are some of the domains that we're talking about, identity, and how do we look at it as kind of a full service that we're providing to meet our mission goals and objectives, rather than look specifically at how we are organized how we were divided as an organization, right? So we're trying to, and I think that's really serving us well in terms of how we're prioritizing and in terms of how we're making investment choices, so that we're really the issues that have the greatest need are getting the funding, as opposed to the loudest voice in the room.
Yeah, I get that. So how are you pulling the thread of data and making the data available and having decisions based on data? This consumer's experience, CX experience, we had the awesome Amber Chaudhry on a few months ago, who is adamant about taking the goals of the project, the program, and putting it in front of the technology decisions. So when tech is decided, it can support fully what the experience needs to be, what it should be. Mm-hmm. And she shared that they do a lot of interviews. They interview the consumers, the potential prospect of the consumers, and what do they want to see? How do they want to consume it? I'm guessing you're doing something similar. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts and strategies around CX?
Sure, absolutely. So we do a lot of interviews. We also, we've done ethnographic studies, which is near and dear to my heart. I love doing that. So early on, we actually spent time in people's homes, meeting with them and understanding their experiences and kind of tracking those experiences. So that has been fascinating. And then we have a lot of other feedback mechanisms, whether it's through surveys and smaller group sessions, but they really do inform how we build our projects and what our goals need to be. And I think I will fully admit that one of the challenges that we have as an organization is, what is our understanding of the business need versus kind of the external user perspective, and trying to get those aligned so that we can do both can often be very difficult. But the more user research and kind of data you have to back up your proposed priorities and goals and objectives, I think the better you are. And then continuing to measure your success and your assumptions throughout the process, and go back to to those who are your customer base to get that input throughout the process, I think is really, really important. So my team hears more than they probably want, that I really, let's not just build on a great idea, but let's make sure it really meets the needs of the users before we go gangbusters on the newest, coolest technology. Let's make sure it makes sense for the solutions we need.
Yeah, and your customers aren't just immigrants, right? Who else are you providing data for? The public-facing data. I mentioned when you and I were prepping for this, Justin Marsico at Fiscal Services talked about the robust amount of data that Fiscal Services is providing to anyone that's interested in where our Treasury's funding is being spent, not necessarily funding, but tax return money, and where does it go? What kind of data are you working on to put out to the public so the public can consume?
Yeah, no, great question. And I'll plug uscis.gov/data. That's our short link to where all of our data is right now. And our primary consumers of that are researchers and academics and that world, honestly. And where we have spent some time is building some data hubs around employment-based visas. So your H-1Bs, your H-2Bs, and making that information available and interactive. So that's the type of thing that we have now. And we're looking at ways to use other public-facing tools to make data even more interactive and more relevant to what the individual information seeker is hoping to accomplish. So, right now we have some great reports that are out, DACA characteristics, but how do we also make this information kind of exploratory in a way, right? And like I said, and interactive. That's how most of our data kind of site is presented at the moment. We certainly present personal information within the account so if people are looking for case-specific information about themselves, they could go to an account where we're able to expose more information and data than we otherwise used to be able to provide kind of on the website. So that's kind of what we're hoping to expand over the next period of time. And as I mentioned to you, we're even hosting a public engagement in the next month or so to hear from the public what it is that they are hoping to see, what type of data and how they'd like it presented, so that we can really take that to heart as we plan for our next set of priorities and goals for FY22 and beyond. So I encourage people to attend that and share their thoughts with us there too.
Awesome. What would be the platform for that if people are listening and want to get involved?
So right now, I think it will be I'm not sure if it's a call or a webinar. I don't know how it's going to be set up, but we use GovDelivery to send out messages, invitations for our engagements, and all our engagements are also posted on the public website if people are interested that way too.
Yeah, great. Last question I have for you. People always want to know how to measure metrics, and what do you all use to see what is working? How do you measure what success looks like from digital transformation, from data-driven decisions, from CX experience, from serving up new applications to provide data?
Yeah, well, there's so many different, I think one of our challenges has been deciding which metrics to use and how often to measure them. So I would say that we have a lot of, our agency has invested a lot of time and energy into building dashboards and kind of having ongoing monitoring through whether Tableau or other dashboards. That is one of our primary ways that we are looking at how we present data to folks, and putting goals and metrics into those visualizations, I think has been really successful for us as an agency. And then in terms of some of our CX goals, I think we're trying to measure not just how how fast someone interacts with us necessarily, or files, but the quality of the information that they're able to provide us, if their filings are complete, whether or not how difficult it was for them, if there are spots where they're getting stuck. Those are all types of things that we're measuring. And, even the need to inquire, right? Hopefully, if we're providing enough information, there's less need or desire to inquire about a personal case. And those inquiries that are coming in are actually more complex inquiries, as opposed to just case status, or which is our most popular inquiry, no matter what.
Yeah,
so I think that those are some of the things that we're trying to look at when we think about CX as well.
Okay, great. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. Are there any last thoughts? Do you have any? Sometimes people share like a nugget of wisdom or a quote or something that someone's inspired them. Anything you want to share with the group before we close out?
I would just say, jump on any opportunity that presents itself, really, whether or not you feel like you're the subject matter expert. I've found it really, really rewarding to be able to have some temporary assignments, learn from others, see operators and leaders in action, and even bad experiences, you learn something. So I'm just so grateful that USCIS has offered me that kind of opportunity to be able to have those temporary assignments and learn from those experiences.
Yeah, well, they're certainly lucky to have you. Thank you so much for your vision, your passion, your purpose, and for leaning in and doing what you do so well. It's so nice to meet you.
You too.
Thank you.